Well, and as I always start my podcasts with, well, it's like this well of depth because that's where we go. We go deep. So today, with ColliTalks, Transformative Conversations, we are doing healing generations with family constellations and a bit of breath work and a few other things. But I have the immense honor of introducing a truly remarkable guest, Jonine, a trailblazer in the world of family constellations and somatic breathwork. For over 30 years, she has dedicated her life to helping others, individuals, heal intergenerational trauma, reconnect with their inner child, and cultivate a deeper relationship with themselves and their ancestral lineage. Her impact extends far beyond her private practice. For the past 15 years, she has been a driving force in organizing, promoting, and hosting events that bring together the world's leading constellation facilitators, fostering a global community of learning, growth, and transformation. Her vision has led to the creation and coordination of the Australian Constellation Intensive 211 till now, an annual gathering in Sydney, Australia, welcoming up to 35 international trainers and 180 participants from around the world. Wow. This event has become a cornerstone for the constellation community, offering immense learning opportunities, powerful healing experiences. And when COVID-19 reshaped the world, she seemingly transitioned the event online. Talk about an amazing, creative, brilliant woman, making it accessible to a truly global audience for the first time. Worldwide Constellation, an online gathering that connects facilitators and participants from across the globe, providing a shared space to honor the roots of systemic work and explore innovative approaches to healing. In-person intensive in Bali, Portugal, and Corfu coming up. Transformative retreats that blend deep constellation work with breath awareness practices set against the backdrop of some of the world's most serene and healing locations. International facilitator training programs, comprehensive training programs designed not only to teach the principles of systemic constellations, but to support facilitators as they step into leadership roles. She is passionate about her creating environments where both new facilitators and seasoned practitioners can deepen their practice, develop their businesses, and confidently lead groups and workshops. She has also been very instrumental in deepening joy constellation and somatic breathwork online, and a heartfelt online offering that explores the interplay between constellation work and breath-based practices, guiding participants toward personal insights and emotional release. She has also been very active in therapy for therapists, retreats, Bali 218 to 219, co-presented with Nick Morey, these 8-day live-in retreats in person, provided a sacred space for therapists to do their own inner work, so needed, built resilience, and reconnected with their passion for healing. And natural fertility constellations, a special program serving couples from 20 different countries, using constellation work to explore the emotions and systemic dynamics around conception, fertility, and family formation. Her events don't just offer technical training, they create spaces where healing can ripple through generation. And Jonine's passion lies in bringing the wisdom of the elders to these new to constellations while empowering experienced facilitators to refine their skills, step in their unique style of leadership, and build sustainable practices. Her list of people she has studied with would take up the whole podcast, but it's brilliant. She's been with the best of the best, and she is the best of the best. So now, in her words, she says, my passion especially over the past 15 years, has been to bring together the wisdom of the elders to support the learning of those new to constellations, as well as supporting those wanting to step into leading groups and training. So, without further ado, if you've ever felt called to explore your ancestral roots, unravel generation patterns, or step into your power as a healer or facilitator, this conversation is for you. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Goodness me.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. Wow. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, I've been pretty busy, Collie.
You have been, and it is your turn to be honored for your not just busyness, but for your passion and your depth
Yeah,
of which you have been swimming in. I'm
yeah.
just so thrilled to have you here. So thrilled. I know it's been a while to get you here because you are so busy. But I wanted to ask you, can you take us back to the very first experience with regards to family constellation that's life changing for you? What
Mm.
shifted for you personally and professionally?
That's very, 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 very easy to recall because it's still completely and utterly alive in every cell of my body.
Oh,
Yeah, so it was just slightly impactful you get from that.
yeah.
My very first experience was actually at a breathwork conference that I had gone to, and I was already a counselor, a therapist, a breathwork practitioner, NLP facilitator. I was already doing a lot of family systems work, child work. I'd trained with and helped organise John Bradshaw to come to Australia, and
Oh,
he's
goodness.
on therapist training. Yes, that was an amazing time.
Mm.
And so when I went to this conference, someone had come back from Poland and Germany. It was a colleague of mine. And she said, oh, there's this new therapy, this new modality, this new approach. It's kind of like family systems happening. It's really big in Germany and Poland. And she talked a little bit about it. And, I also had done years of psychodrama and
Right.
sandplay. So it sounded to me like, oh, yeah, okay. So, it sounds like I really know this. That kind of like flippant. It's like, oh yeah, I kind of so know this. And because it was a conference and there were a lot of people there, and I'm from a large family, I'm the second eldest in a family of 9. I
Oh,
thought,
wow.
hey, it'd be really good for me to do my whatever you're calling it, the
Right.
therapist calling it. And so I set everybody up and placed them, mom and dad and the 9 children only, and then someone for myself, and then I sat down. But as I'm counting around, I realized that I'd left someone out.
Oh,
And it was a really profound realization. Like my whole body had a physical cathartic response. It was someone, I won't go into the story of it, but
right.
someone that was really, really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that I held them. This is why it stays so potent in my mind, not only because it was life-changing for me,
Right.
many other people were affected, but the profound and broad spectrum, or the broader realization, is that this was something that I thought, something and someone in a situation that I thought consciously I was completely at peace with, aware of, held in a good place, had integrated. And
Mm.
the moment I sat down after setting up, without a word being spoken, not a word being spoken by anyone, I just cast my eyes around this, externalizing the representation of my family system.
Right.
And everything shifted for me. The realization was the disparity between my believing that I had a dynamic in a good place
Right.
and unconsciously it being the complete opposite.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
mean, it could not be further. It couldn't be. So the that's what stays with me to this day. That's what I stay passionate about, because I think that our lives can be led not knowing that we don't know, but even worse, thinking that we do.
Exactly.
And you know what I mean,
Exactly.
because
Oh,
you've
I
been
do.
there so
Yes.
many times, and that'll just resonate for you and most people that have done a constellation. But for me, it was like, oh my God, how many people on the planet are living in this trance, this false illusion,
Mm-hmm.
and the impact on so many lives. And it took like about, I don't know, half an hour or something like that for some healing sentences and some things to shift. And that even though I knew what I should say, I was aware that there was still monumental resistance. And I stayed with it and stayed with it, was guided and supported to say it. But I owned that there was resistance. So it had
Mm.
a place in me.
Right.
And then I shifted through. So it didn't take very long, but I could have lived with that dynamic, imagining that I was
Exactly.
the hoodoo guru of, oh yeah, I'm so at peace with that. I hold that in a good place. I'm so cosmic about that. And it
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, no.
You're not done
That was,
yet.
yeah, not even vaguely, not even close. But after that, it was just profound. It was completely profound, and it was life-changing and has continued to be. And from that
Mm-hmm.
day forward, I'd already, as I said, been in practice for some time. I got together with those colleagues from Poland and Germany, and Love's Hidden Symmetry wasn't yet translated into English, but it's like, I thought I so knew this, and I so completely don't. This is something
Right.
completely different. And I immediately set about grasping anything that I could to read. And so as a group, we translated Love's Hidden Symmetry and worked
Oh,
our
wow.
way through the
Wonderful.
philosophy until a few, I don't know, 3 or 4 years later, it was translated into English. And that's nearly 30 years ago. And the book cost me like $75, which was like, felt like a fortune, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it was gold. I would have
It
paid
was gold.
1,000.
Exactly.
I would
Exactly.
have paid 1,000 times more. I still have that copy.
Oh my goodness. Well,
And
thank you. That's like
yeah. So
amazing. And thank
immediately,
you for,
I never, ever, ever again conducted a consultation. And for over 30 years, I've worked full time. It's been my full time job,
right.
privilege. And I never again did another consultation without the integration of those principles. Never, never,
Mm-hmm.
ever
Mm-hmm.
again.
And that was going to be my next question, with over
Yes.
30 years of, in private practice, how have you personally evolved as a facilitator,
Yeah.
you know?
Ongoingly, it's
Mm-hmm.
just taken me to, it was lovely then when you talked about the well and the
Mm-hmm.
depths of exploration. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
so profoundly grateful to every workshop, to every training, to every individual session that I taught or conducted or held space for, because it's deepened my connection to myself. It's
Mm-hmm.
deepened, shaped, and formed all of my relationships, my parenting, my capacity to be present as a step parent. I think Family Constellations offers such profound gifts to
Mm-hmm.
those in, what do you call them? Split step families, but there's
Step
another.
families.
Yeah, step
Yeah.
families.
Step families.
Blended families, yes. Step
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
families, blended
Blended.
families.
Yes. Blended. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Wow.
much. Yeah, so it's informed me enormously. And the capacity to learn. So that was all before there
Mm-hmm.
was internet and there was emails. And so as soon as there were trainers visiting Australia, and of course we're a long way away, so it was
Mm-hmm.
not very often, but whenever they came, and that's why I think I became passionate along with colleagues to start the Australasian Constellation Intensive. It wasn't my vision, it was Chris Walsh's vision, a psychiatrist in Melbourne here in Australia, who
Okay.
was very innovative in bringing constellation work to Australia. And then with colleagues Maria Dolence and Frank Brewer and
Mm-hmm.
Dean Mason, yes, we formed a group that organised that. And they lost interest in the organising part, but interestingly, over the last, as you say, 15 years, more and more my passion has become organising
Mm-hmm.
and creating optimal learning experiences for the next generation of facilitators to come on board, because I just keep looking at I'm so passionate about getting these, what I call best practice skills for
Right.
relationships and family systems,
Mm-hmm.
getting them out there in the world. So for me, it's about like, what's the greatest point of leverage? And that's training and teaching and intensive programs. And so, as you said, when COVID happened, the great interrupter,
Mm-hmm.
it allowed me and the team that works with me to convert to online. Our extraordinary program manager, Maggie Sisson, had us organized. So we had four Zoom rooms running concurrently 24 hours a day for 7 days.
Right. Thank you, COVID.
Blessing beyond belief.
Isn't it?
And yeah, because and all the faculty, the elders were in their mid-late 70s, and I realized weren't going to travel as much or hold the
Mm-hmm.
space for trainings. And to me, that it felt like this was, a disaster in my mind. These were elders whose wisdom needed to be celebrated, and they needed to be feted and downloaded as much as possible
Yes, absolutely.
before they decided to step away. And that wouldn't happen unless we could create something online. So, of course, we did 2 years. And then out of that, because people were so passionate about the capacity to sit in their homes, as you understand, Collie, and
Right.
press a button and learn and be in the circle with so many esteemed teachers and trainers, that so many people love that we saw the opportunity to create a training. And so
Mm-hmm.
we're about to start the 3rd year of the
Right.
international training. And it's
Right.
just, yeah, I have to
Jaw
pause on that.
dropping.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
so profoundly moving, the community that develops as a consequence. Like, it's amazing, all the
Mm-hmm.
teachers, 35 plus, and students from over 25 countries, all that's amazing. And yet there's something else, like, it moves me so deeply. The
Mm-hmm.
community that's created out of that, the
Right.
community connections, and yeah, that's
It's
touched me
it's truly
really.
beautiful. One thing I've noticed is that there's no competition. Like within the tribe that I've been so blessed to train with and learn from, there's just no competition. And that's so beautiful because there's not many modalities where there isn't competition. That's what I find for me.
I'm not sure what you mean by
Well,
competition.
competition amongst facilitators.
So there's
You
more
know,
goodwill.
yes,
There's
absolutely.
enormous goodwill. Yes.
Enormous. And it's almost like it's a cheering on
Yes.
for the
Yes. I
next.
think I think there's some healthy competition there,
Well, yes,
but
healthy,
not
but
in the usual reference point, as you say. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
you do.
yeah,
There's along with that, well, yeah, we wouldn't call it competition, would we? We'd
right,
call striving for success and
right,
striving to grow their practice, but
right.
in the same time encouraging and supporting others. Yes, I agree
Exactly.
with you completely.
Exactly. And I was going to ask you, what do you love most about creating these immersive learning environments? Like, there's got to be something that you love about it. What is it? I'm very curious.
Mostly that, it's the community connections. They become
Mm,
an ongoing resource, people that you've
mm-hmm,
connected with. And often it's outside, in the breakout rooms or in-person events. It's sometimes over coffee or a meal or something like that, where a participant, because
mm-hmm,
so many people come with so much experience
right.
already in international training there. A lot of people have done many trainings and are trainers themselves, but come to the international training for extraordinary professional development ongoingly. So they put themselves in the crucible of that learning with the
Mm-hmm,
elders, and then they can immediately take that into their individual sessions or into their
mm,
own training.
it's beautiful.
Um, so yeah, there isn't one thing, but if there was one, it would be community and
Mm-hmm,
the extraordinary support that's co-created there, because it's a collaborative effort, it's a co-creation, it's all these people coming together, not just the faculty but the
right.
tech team, and then the participants. Everybody just comes together in this extraordinary collaboration, and what pops out is this soulful learning environment, but that sort of minimizes it. It's, yeah, we all go on a really deep soulful journey.
Mm-hmm, down the well.
Wow,
Sounds
that's it.
well. I was gonna ask you, with everything, how do you balance honoring the roots of constellation work while making space for new voices and innovations? How do you balance
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I think everybody walks with that, don't you? Your esteemed colleagues and one of our beautiful faculty members, Amwin St. Just and
Mm-hmm.
Gracia, Lauren and Karl Heinz, and there are so many that bring innovation to constellations. I don't know. I think it's just a natural process. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that there are any forms of therapy that don't then uh, change and transform and integrate others. Like, I just love working with family constellations and combining it with breath work,
Mm-hmm.
or especially with inner parts work,
Right?
uh, with inner child work. I mean, they're just naturally integrated into it
Mm-hmm.
and I think Bert, or if not Bert himself, but many of the elders say, is it a philosophy? Is it a modality? Is it a process? Or is it all of these things? And I,
Right. Remains to be known.
yeah.
Exactly. And now, I mean, you've hosted these intensives like in Bali and Portugal and Corfu. And so, what is the significance of bringing constellation work into these healing landscapes? How do the locations actually impact the experience?
And that's such a good point, Collie, because I think that's exactly what they do. The fact that we go into, I mean, Bali in particular has a beautiful culture, mostly Hindi, and so their very fabric of their life is about community, celebration, ritual, ceremony, giving thanks, honoring ancestors. So that's a
Mhm.
given, and I'm incredibly excited to be doing the women's mysteries, and I know we'll talk about that later, but
Yes.
I'm really excited about that because, particularly for Bali, it has such a strong thread of the feminine in their culture. But with any of the environments, like going to Greece and Corfu, and when we were in Portugal, or when we're in Sydney, Australia,
Hmm.
I think when you do when you combine a lot of people that come to the intensives and trainings are in an aged stage of life where, young children, they're perhaps entering their third age. They still love their profession. They love working as coaches or therapists or
Hmm.
healthcare practitioners, or they just love their continuing self-discovery journey.
Right.
And so the opportunity to go to a different environment, into a different culture, it adds a powerful dynamic that has you kind of like in that.
Mm.
Well, even airports themselves are
Yes.
like
Yes.
liminal spaces because
Hmm.
they're portals between one country and another, or one town and another.
Right.
And so I think when you step into a new culture, you really open a portal to a different experience of both yourself shaken out of your normal routine,
Hmm.
and and that opens us, I think, to, yeah, it has us more open to change and new perspective. And as you know, if we can shift our perspective, if we can
Hmm.
make adjustments to our mindset, everything changes.
Everything changes. Yes.
Everything
My
changes.
map of the world is not the only one.
That's it, exactly. I loved my NLP training
Yeah,
and stuff.
exactly.
And
I
I
actually
trained to
studied with
some of,
Robert as well.
did you, Robert
Yeah.
Dills? Oh my
Yeah.
God, he's a
In
genius.
Santa Cruz. Yeah. I went to university
Absolute
there for
genius. And of
3 weeks.
course, he wrote those beautiful books,
Yeah.
The Strategies of Genius, How to Study and
Absolutely.
Mentor.
I know,
He was
right?
amazing. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I was very happy to be part of the organizing team that brought him here. So I
Oh,
had many lunches and dinners with him.
oh,
Yeah.
lovely, lovely. He's
Really
just such
lovely.
a gentle soul.
And
He
Michael
really is.
Hall and Robert McDonald.
Hmm.
Tad Jack, not so much, but he was very powerful. But Robert Dill's the
Hmm.
genius.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, what advice would you give speaking of NLP, taking second position, someone wanting to step into the world of constellation work, how can they navigate like the responsibility of holding such profound space for others?
What advice did you say? What advice
What
would I give
advice
to
would you
them?
give to someone stepping into the
To
world
them?
of constellation work, first of all? And then the other
Yeah.
question
Study
I'll
with as many people as you can, and the greater the diversity, I think, the
Mhm.
more skilled and the more ways to meet each individual that comes into your space,
Right?
meet their map, meet and match their map of the world, and accompany them on the journey. And certainly it teaches you to build rapport, because the focus is to deep inner listening and being present to without judgment or intention or hypothesizing. The ideal stance for the
Mhm.
facilitator is courageous presence. Here I am. Where can I accompany you? So advice, yes, read as much as you can. Put yourself in a learning circle with as many facilitators as possible. Look to the elders, because you want to absolutely draw on every subtle
Yes.
piece of wisdom they can give you. Most of them have got 40, 50 years of
Yes.
wisdom to pass on. Look at Amwin, like what she's got 50 years or something
I
like that.
know, amazing.
Judith Hemming just loves being able to pass on. Bertold Schnee, Marianne Franke. There's too many to mention, but I mean,
Mhm.
like just sitting in the circle with them in a 2 or 3 hour. And there's lots of opportunities for people. They don't have to do a full training.
Right.
There's lots of opportunities to just, even with the training, you can attend a 2-day training, and that's 10 sessions with 10 trainers. I
Oh,
mean, it's mind blowing, really.
right.
So, and do your inner work. So the biggest piece of advice, of course, is
Okay.
just constantly to keep showing up for yourself. And so
Absolutely.
group work is really valuable for your own personal process. And I think it's much, 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 much more powerful as and efficient
Mhm.
than one-on-one work, because the group dynamic, just you can learn so much more. And of course the connections in the group become an ongoing resource. So I
Exactly.
would support people, do your own work, put yourself in groups as much as you can. Yeah, that's a good start.
Okay. And for experienced facilitators wanting to, deepen their practice or grow their business, what practices or perhaps mindsets have you found to be the most essential for long-term success?
Well, constellations, certainly, and it's a way, of course, that you can work with yourself as much as anything else.
Mhm.
But and breath work, I think breath work is extraordinary, because it
Mhm.
gets the mind out of the way, and it's completely somatically orientated. And of course, we know the unconscious mind speaks through sensations, thoughts, pictures, images, and you can access that beautifully through breath work. In a parts work, inner child work, I think, is foundational, pivotal.
Okay.
Healing shame, why I spent so much time learning from John Bradshaw's clinical director,
Right?
um, who we organised the trainings for in Australia, was because his understanding of shame, toxic
Yes.
shame and healthy shame,
Yes.
is profound.
Mhm.
Interestingly, he's from the same part of America, Dallas, Texas, that Brene Brown was from.
Oh,
Even
wow.
though he's never mentioned in any of her studies. Yeah.
Interesting. Hmm.
He wrote a profound book. If you haven't
Oh,
read, if anybody's listening to this, and you can get them very inexpensively online, The Homecoming still is a seminal piece of work
mhm.
with child work. I did 4-day workshops, live-in workshops for that for about 16 years. And Healing the Shame That
Healing the
Binds.
shame. Yes. I
It's profound.
love the
Profound. Read it
I
backwards,
yeah,
frontwards, sideways, upwards,
upside down.
downwards. Absolutely.
Exactly. Absolutely
Understand how
brilliant.
we're impacted for that, isn't it, Collie?
Oh,
To,
yes.
to understand all the shame, shame around learning, shame around our expression, shame around our body, shame around our intellect, shame around our heritage, shame around our parents, shame around there are so many ways in which we can be bound and
Mhm.
taken hostage by by our shame, our wrong making around aspects of ourselves or our history or whatever. And so healing that, understanding that, and
Mhm.
understanding and recognizing what the triggers that are the beautiful gifts that help us understand when we really look at when we have been triggered and explore that,
Right.
then we
Right.
find, a shame bind almost certainly, or a repressed response to a previous hurt,
Oh,
and make
yeah.
time to feel that is really valuable.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and the necklace just gets thicker. Right. And so with regards to, constellation work, you've described it as soulful and sacred. Can you speak to the spiritual dimension of this work?
I think it's integral. It is what it is. It
Hmm.
is, and you speak a lot about the soul, and I think that's profoundly what Hellinger touched on,
Hmm.
that really had this way of supporting people to truly, I mean, it was revelatory when you look back at the history of therapeutic models, and it used to be that there was a separation between mind and body.
Right.
Talk about mind body stuff was really woo woo. I can remember like 40 years ago doing
Hmm.
breathwork, like, oh, that's all so woo woo. Now there's science that totally supports it.
Yeah, it's epigenetics.
And yeah, and then, but it was, even 20 years ago, mind body integration and understanding that, in psychology and psychiatry, that was separated. It's the mind is separate. And so then to integrate the soul and the soul's journey,
Right.
I think there, I would hazard a guess that very few modalities now don't integrate a
Hmm.
spiritual aspect. I think it's, the evolution of our consciousness in this time really
Right.
acknowledges there's something greater. We are not just this mind and body, but there is a spirit or an essence that perhaps we don't know, but many of us believe, has
Hmm.
come from has potentially come from a soul family. I mean, we have so much. There may not be empirical evidence, but certainly thousands, many years or thousands of years actually of anecdotal evidence that
Absolutely.
this is.
Absolutely. And with Bert, and you have mentioned, that he's been a guiding light for you. So what aspect of his legacy do you feel the world needs most right now?
Well, the world has never needed, it's never been in greater need for conflict resolution skills and
Hmm.
skills for relationships than now. It's like, well, I mean, it's
Right.
all the world's always needed that, but it's like, oh my God, it's amplifying now.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's, the essence, what works to create peace, what works to support peace, and what doesn't.
Right.
I think that's one of the most profound, simplified aspects of Bert's teaching is that, and he expresses it not only as what supports peace and what doesn't, but what
Hmm.
supports the flow of love,
Right.
and no matter what you do, it what doesn't. And so that's profound. Yeah. And the acceptance, like and earlier philosophers from Lazzi, I can never remember how to pronounce his name, but thousands ago philosophers talked about it, the
Hmm.
deep acceptance of what is. Because of course, when you land with that, it's like, well, the alternative is, if you don't accept what is and what has happened, then you live, the opposite to acceptance is denial.
Exactly. And that's a river, isn't it?
And that's a river. It's like, so some people go, it's like, well, no, I don't accept it. Well, then you deny it. And then you have to really ask yourself pragmatically, it's like, well, how long do you need to deny something
Mm.
in order that it didn't happen?
Right.
So, and that, of course, you have to scratch your head because it's like, well, no matter how long, it will
Exactly.
never change the fact that it happened. But while people stay locked in that denial, which I didn't think I was, but I was in denial about something. I had blocked it because I didn't want to accept what
Right.
was. I want wanted it to be something else. And so what we do is, we become master deniers, and we don't even
Mm-hmm.
realize that
Mm.
we're denying something. Quite the reverse. We think we're very clever and cosmic, like I thought I was.
We like
And
to protect that denial.
yeah, that's it. That's it, exactly. We love protecting. And it's the illusion, isn't it?
It
So
is.
it's such an illusion. I mean, when I had to face what I had to face and accept something I'd been denying, it was excruciatingly painful. But
Of
for about
course.
20 minutes. But for about 20 it's like, okay, it shifted through my body and the awareness was there, and it was like, oh my God, okay, this is how it is. And then I just moved through my body and I just breathed and I could go, oh, and then it was like, oh, freedom.
Freedom
So
and
why
lightness.
wouldn't you do it? So I tell
Exactly.
guys, it's like race out and find a constellation group, race out and find a workshop, jump online. And,
Right.
there's lots of people that offer the opportunity. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful facilitators and teachers and trainers all around the world that offer opportunities. And I don't know if you do, Collie, but
Yeah,
many
I
people.
do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
great. To offer the opportunity for people to come on as reps so you can come and experience it. And you and
exactly.
I both know the profound experience that can happen just by being a rep. To have the experience of standing as if in the position, in the energetic field of
Mm.
another, so that you can tune into that history, that felt sense, that soul essence of that person is a life-changing
And so
experience. You,
sacred.
so sacred. Oh, yes, that's such a beauty. That's so true. Let's pause on that because that's so true, Connie.
Yeah.
It's
So
so
going
sacred.
into, your vision here for your future, what is your vision for the future of constellation work? And we're going to lead into now your upcoming events, but what is your vision for the future of constellation work?
More of the same, more just being taken into mainstream. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's, there are a lot of countries, the Netherlands, Brazil, where, as it's part of the court system, it's part of hospital, it's part of organizations. So more and more of that. It's like it's just a skill base that you can take into and integrate into anything. So my vision is to get it out there as much as possible. And
Mm-hmm.
people don't have to shift. So many counselors and coaches and healthcare workers and psychologists and psychiatrists and integrated medicine doctors, all of these people and teachers come and do constellation work, as you know,
Right.
come to the training, but they don't necessarily go out and specifically do family constellations. They just integrate that philosophy into their everyday being. A lot of integrative doctor medicine practitioners that have come to the teachings and trainings
Mm-hmm.
across the years have said, they just when someone comes with their symptoms, they're just present to them in a completely different way. So
Absolutely.
instead of just doing the revelatory, mind body sort of thing, they say, I expand it then, and I ask a little bit more about their family system, and not only that, a little bit about ancestors, but I ask them in a kind of medical way that they
Right.
don't really know. I'm, kind of doing a genogram of them and where the symptom might fit around that,
Exactly.
especially with people who have a lot of my private practice for many years was from a naturopaths and integrated medicine practitioners, because they, having done family constellations and breathwork with me, they realized that, many clients, many patients, despite the best efforts, despite the best medicine, despite changing their diet, despite changing so much, their symptoms didn't respond
Right.
to the treatment. And so there's that protective mechanism, I think,
Exactly.
that you were talking about. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, no, the body's saying, no, we can't let go of this symptom. It's too important. While we have this symptom, then we can focus on this and we don't have to look deeper. We don't have to look at where it might belong or who it might be entangled with. And so they found it really powerful. So they were working really hard trying to support the
Mm-hmm.
client and they weren't making any progress. Then they'd send them off for some family constellations and some breath work, and they'd come back and be like, oh, in a couple of cases with that, I had experience of, people not able to lift their head off the board, absolutely whole body shut down. And within a few months up and about
Mm.
and back. Yeah.
Amazing. Beautiful. So beautiful. And it's so freeing, right? It's so liberating. So you've created so many opportunities for people to experience this work globally. So now, what are the ones you're working on now?
Well, I alluded to that, and we have, a
Yes.
colleague that we both really love. Well, two colleagues we really love, and when St. Just and Gard Rauscher, who, and we've talked for many years about trying to do a collaboration and doing something for women in particular.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in recent years, both have really inspired me even more as they've stepped into what I call the third age, and how vibrant and alive and creative they still are. And I feel that's true for me too. Like I
Mm-hmm.
turned
I'm
this
there too. I'm older
year.
than you.
That's it. And look at us. And look at
Yeah.
where
Look at us. Yeah.
exactly. Go us gals. So the Bali retreat, Women's Mysteries, is very much about that. And Gad
Oh,
Ralph, does this amazing work with Yoni
yes.
constellations, looking at the feminine sexuality. So I'm really excited about that. And of course, and when it, in 81 is in, a new gorgeous and loving relationship.
Yes.
And we just want to accompany women. There'll be other guest presenters as well, but we want
Mm-hmm.
to accompany women to really explore and support their resourcing for living the most creative, juicy, vibrant, joyful lives they can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's it.
Well, that's great. And so can you, I'm going to be posting things, but can you share with us the dates?
Yeah, the date for that is April. No, it's not September. September 22 to 25. So it's 4 days, four and a
4 days.
half days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's in Ubud in Bali.
Okay.
I think you've got the main website link is the
Right.
best
Yeah.
info.
Which I will share.
Yeah. And so if so that is just for women. But before that, Shavasti's doing a 3-day event and the language of the soul. And
Right.
so people can attend that. And everybody, men and women, of course, can attend that. And then the Women's Mysteries is just for the women. But
Right.
before that, we have coming up in April a 5-day retreat with another spiritual master, and that's Spagito Liebermaster.
Oh,
And he is an Osho devotee and of a gazillion years, an
wow.
extraordinary teacher and trainer. And he's going to be guiding a group at the Osho Retreat Center in Ubud in Bali. That's a really good value opportunity because it includes accommodation and vegetarian meals. He's a meditation devotee and passionate about art. So the retreat will integrate both meditation, dynamic meditation as well,
Oh my
and
goodness.
artwork. So that's going to be stupendous. I'm so, 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 so completely looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness, that's wonderful. And
I
you've
know.
also got,
And
yeah.
he's a masterful constellator.
Wow.
Masterful. Absolutely masterful. And so that's in April. And then
Mm-hmm.
soon after in Corfu with Mark Wolin.
Yes,
Mark Wallen has been an extraordinary contributor to Family
mhm.
Constellations, as you
Yes,
know.
he has. He
Uh,
certainly was the one who shifted me into it.
he is, you are beautiful.
Yeah, in
And his
Victoria.
are
Hmm.
beautiful, of course. And his book, it didn't start with you. It
Hmm.
touched resonated for so many people because of its clarity and crispness. The core language he used. He's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful man and teacher, which not
Right.
everybody is. A lot of people are great facilitators, but not great teachers. He's a fabulous teacher.
Yes, he
The
is.
fact that his book was picked up by that young creative director for Netflix and
Oh, right. Yes,
made the
another self.
focus
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
a now famous. So not only is his book now in 38 languages. 38 languages. It's extraordinary. It's
It
extraordinary.
is.
And in the last few years, he's been putting work into creating a review. What do they call it? A reviewed version of It Didn't Start With Us,
Oh,
plus workbook to go with that,
oh,
plus a new book.
Wow,
So
he's busy.
those that come, exactly. But he hasn't been teaching for 3 or 4 years
No,
before COVID. So those that come to Corfu get to have all of that he's been working on, all and he's focused in his new book and in his accompaniment to It Didn't Start With You, is a huge focus on attachment and even deeper exploration
right.
of the mother influence. There's actually a fabulous, I think he's Israeli psychiatrist and scientist that talks about, what does he say? I think it's 95% of the neocortex is the mother.
Hmm.
Something like that. I'll have to
Wow.
think of the quote. I don't know. But anyway, so Mark talks really about that.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
but wait,
Yes.
that's that's 4 days with Mark and then 2 days with Judith Hemming.
Oh, language of the soul.
Judith
Oh.
Hemming, well, her background is Gestalt, and she talks about she will be working with intimate relationships.
Hmm.
And so we're so thrilled to have
Oh.
her there as well. We were
Oh.
actually going to also Shavasti and Marianne Frankie, but it just became too big. So we have
Yes.
time for those 4 days plus.
People's brains would be orbiting somewhere.
Oh, it's true. And so they're the biggest things. And then I'm back again in July
Okay.
with a psychologist colleague of mine with therapy for therapists. So that's
Okay.
for psychologists and counselors and psychotherapists, therapy for therapists. And we'll be focusing this year, we've been doing that for about 12 years. We'll be focusing this year on working with dreams, constellations, and working.
Oh, wow.
And he's an integral therapist, so he integrates a lot of integral theory with the 5 faces of love. He does a lot of work with,
Mm,
I work a lot with constellations and breath work. And so many of his colleagues in the world of psychology
right.
have just been absolutely,
Chomping.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, seriously, what is
Seriously.
this?
Yeah,
What is this?
exactly.
I
Right.
have to do this. I have to.
Oh, that's
It's like,
wonderful.
oh, how can it? So that's really amazing too. So yeah,
Oh,
that's
wow.
kind of it.
And
And
so,
the training that starts in March, so people can
okay.
join 2 days. It's the end of March.
Oh,
There's payment
okay.
plans available. That's the training that's across 9 months or 12 months. It's with 35 plus extraordinary trainers, many elders, first generation that studied with Bert. Yeah, that's 2 days per month plus study groups plus lots of things. So
Plus, plus, plus.
Holly, it's
It's
and
a
you know
banquet. It's a feast.
it's a banquet.
It is. It is
It's
a feast. It is. It's beautiful and it sounds so delicious.
yeah. And thank you for asking me about it because I get to have this whole section of going blah 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 blah.
Yeah, but it's your enthusiasm and your passion. And, this is so important, right? Because people want to know and people are looking. So this is so
Yes.
awesome.
And people probably say the same thing to you, Collie. How do you have the energy that you've got? How do you, where does that come from? And I say to people, family constellations, 30,
Yep.
30 family constellations, inner parts work, inner child
Yep.
work, somatic breath work, and living your passion and saying no
Absolutely.
to what's not in service of that. Saying no,
Exactly.
big
Exactly.
fat
Exactly.
no's to
Big
what's
one.
in service of that. And big, fat, wide, loud yeses to what lifts you up, to what
Absolutely.
as you show up every day. I roll out of bed generally 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and go, right,
Let's
I've got
get
this
at it.
video of this. Yes.
Absolutely. And, it was interesting talking about that because the one thing I have learned through all, the trainings I've done and, a lot of not just trainings, but, my own inner work and is I would never, and I tell people, if you are in the field that you're in, or even if you're a coach or whatever you're doing, make sure
Yeah.
that you train with somebody who also trains, right?
Yes.
Somebody who,
Oh, who also ongoingly
yeah,
learn.
right.
Yes.
Like if you're with a coach and they don't have a coach, bye
Yeah.
bye. That kind of thing. But I want to ask you one more question, and I know you've got to go. You have things to do, and I'm going to go to bed. So,
Oh, yes,
yeah,
blaming you.
exactly. So I was going to ask you, what legacy do you hope to leave behind in this field?
Oh my gosh, I already feel like that, every day I'm contributing to the
Right,
legacy. That is that the upskilling, providing optimal learning opportunities and
right.
community connections for facilitators. There's quite a few people, including Bander and Grindler in
Yes,
NLP, but also Bert did it because he did some study with them as well. And he did
right.
primary stream. He did with, what's his name? Yeah, no, yeah, I can't think of it. Anyway, it does a meditation where you imagine yourself lying in your coffin and people are walking around.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
and what will they say? And it's really lovely. I really enjoy that. My body's going, my soul's going to really enjoy that. People saying, "Oh my God, she was so loud and so enthusiastic and so passionate about this. I just had to do it, and I'm so glad that I did." And yes, so I'll just
So
keep working.
vivacious, so beautiful, and a real legend in your own time and beyond. You will be. You are an amazing woman. I'm
Thank
sorry. I'm really honored that you spent time with me and that I can share you to the world. And I
you.
just love you to bits. And I just really, really
Good on you. And I love that we've been tic-tacking for the longest time.
exactly,
And finally we get to have this really big,
absolutely,
fat, juicy, meaningful, soulful conversation, because you're always
absolutely.
doing your taglines, love and soul hugs. And I think, well, you know, good on you, Collie, and may you continue doing it. And
Oh,
hopefully we'll get to have a big, cushy
a big hug, a big soul
hug.
hug.
Yeah,
Yes,
squishy,
I'm
baby,
working.
delicious hug sometime. And to
I'm
anybody
working.
out there, go find a workshop. Just find
Absolutely,
it.
absolutely. Well, it's going to be a couple of
Keep well.
tonight, and I will send you the link. So, darling, enjoy your lunch. Much love
Take care. Thank
and
you, thank you,
blessings.
thank you,
Thank you,
thank
thank you, thank you.
you.